everyone, Father James here. I know this sounds probably really poor, but I'm out here on location outside of Eau Claire on my secret place that I like to do some astrophotography. So secret, it's right by a road. Hey everyone, welcome back to the official Vatican Observatory Fanboy. That's right, if you missed my video last week, if you've just stumbled upon this page, I am Father James Krasinski, priest of the Diocese of La Crosse, a hobby astronomer, and the official Vatican Observatory Fanboy. I'm not a scientist. For me, I just love what the Vatican Observatory does, and I am able to have the privilege of collaborating with them on Sacred Space Astronomy, which is the official blog of the Vatican Observatory. There's a link for it down below, and I would invite you to check it out. Today is my day off. For those who are new to these videos, these are my away from the work of priesthood videos. This is my day off, my decompression time. And so I want to share things with you that are fun, that are light, and specifically with some of the things I do with the Vatican Observatory in terms of my collaboration with them. Last week I showed you on how you can take nice pictures with your cell phone. In the bumper at the beginning, I showed you a video of me out in the field with my camera, which is videotaping me right now, and also my cell phone. And so therefore I got the pictures on the computer. I want to share a little bit with you on how to edit these pictures, because if you took some pictures, if you tried it, you might think, Father, they don't look good, they look dark, I see stars, but they're not really there. I'll show you today how you can pull those stars out a little bit more, do a little bit of a better job of making those pictures look nice. Now you might be noticing I'm not in my collar, but I'm in my Packer swag. It's my day off. I'm in Wisconsin. We're Packer fans in Wisconsin. Unless you're in western Wisconsin, then there's the whole Viking situation, and there's some Bear fans that have moved up from Illinois. We find a way to get along. And actually, though, just to kind of, I don't know if any of you are interested, but in my life away from priesthood, on my days off, if you ever wonder, what does a priest do on his day off other than making vlogs and doing stargazing? I've had the privilege over the years of being able to go to Packer practices, and every once in a while I get to, because of a friend of mine, am able to get on the sidelines. And so a couple weeks ago on a Monday on my day off, I got a chance to go to a Packers practice. I'm just going to run some of the pictures from it. I'm not here to be the official Packer fanboy now. Believe me, there's a lot more blogs online that do a much better job of that. But just to, sometimes people think that priests don't have interests outside of ministry. We're human. We're normal. Well, somewhat normal. Anyway, let's get into it. Now, before we get into editing the pictures, I did want to, as I did last time, just to make you aware of some of the things that are on the blog. There are a lot of fascinating things that have been posted this last week. I'm just going to look at my computer here really quick to refresh my memory in terms of what's been posted. Chris Graney, as I shared with you before, takes care of our Faith and Science Resource Center. He has posted two fascinating pieces. One, forgery of Galileo documents, mystery, intrigue. Okay, so it's not an atom destroyer like you saw in the movie Angels and Demons in Vatican Square, but it's interesting stuff. Have there been forgeries? Has there been in the past attempts to try to make the church look worse than it actually is? Read Chris's article and find out on forgery in science history. Forging Galileo. and Forging the Catholic Church, Condemning Science. He also put together a beautiful piece on the treasures from the Vatican Observatory Library of old books. And one of the things I loved about this piece is that one of the presentations I give about faith and astronomy, when you look at constellations, and regardless of what the culture it is, whether it's the Greek constellations, which most of us, that if you're in Europe or if you're in the United States, those are the constellations we know most predominantly, those that have been associated with like Greek mythology. But there's beautiful constellations that emerge from Chinese culture, from Native American culture. And I find it interesting that independent of each culture, there's something deep within us that wants to put what's happening down here up there, in quotation marks. I'm not a flat earther. Don't worry. Don't get nervous. But there's just kind of this sense we've always wanted to have. There's this intuitive sense of wanting to have a connection with the stars, having a connection with what's going on in the night sky. And so, therefore, take a look at that. Chris Mackey put a fun video. Please follow Chris Mackey. In terms of his posts. I'm sorry, Bob Mackey, not Chris. Sorry, Bob. But Brother Bob, he is working on the OSIRIS-REx project. He's been asked to be one of the scientists that once OSIRIS-REx was a probe that was sent up that sucked up some debris from the asteroid Bennu, and it's coming back. And he explains basically the machinery that's going to be used to analyze what comes back. And he has a lot of fun YouTube videos too. He's really enjoying a 3D printer. And so therefore, get Brother Bob Mackey, sorry for messing up your name, Bob, and enjoy that. Of course, there's Bob Tremblay's In the Sky this week. There's a piece on Apollo 11 called Torricelli to Apollo 11. When I looked at it quickly, I thought it said Tortellini. But Torricelli to Apollo 11. Just a lot of good stuff. Sacred Space Astronomy blog. Check it out. You're going to enjoy it. Now, let's get to the content for today. So, open up your pictures. Did you try them? We're going to walk through on how you can try to edit them. Now, for some of you, you may have looked at your phone and thought, Father, I don't have manual mode. There's a couple people that I know that live close by that follow me that have shared that. I'm in the process, because of that, of experimenting with different apps online that you can put on your phone that help you do exactly what I shared with you last week, that help you take over your phone. I haven't found one that I liked yet. Once I do, I'll make a video on it. So right now I'm in research phase to try to figure out how can I find a free app that you can put on your phone that's not going to be destructive to help you get those manual settings. So if you tried and you were frustrated, hang in there. I'm going to try to put together something for you. Now for this video, I'm going to switch to doing a video capture of my computer monitor. Okay, so here we are at my computer. I'm using my pointer right now to show you Comet Neowise. Not just because it's a nice picture, but that pointer is going to guide you through this little process of me showing you how to edit pictures. Now, for me, I want to make sure that everything I do on here does not mean that you have to go out and buy something. So I found a free software package for photo editing called Photoscape X. And there's a pro version that you have to pay for. I wouldn't download that. I just use the free, because the free version, which I'm opening right now, has everything you really need just to touch up your pictures. Now, I've already downloaded some of the images down on the right. And as you can see, these are some of the cell phone pictures. They're really dark, and they probably look a lot like yours. And you might think, oh, my phone stinks. Actually, no, it doesn't. We have to approach this as collecting data. So on your phone, you've collected data of the sky. Now you don't see all the data that's in your images, and so part of editing is how do we pull that data out. Um, and because it's amazing, even with these JPEGs, of what we can do with simple images. Now, I also downloaded some pictures from my camera. And on the surface, you might think, Father, those don't look all that much better than your cell phone pictures. And on the surface, you're right. But as we do some editing, I'll be able to show you the big difference between the two of those images in terms of what data is there and what you can do with that data versus from a cell phone versus an actual, in this case, APS-C, larger size uh, um, uh, camera sensor that you can pull more information out. So with that, let's get to the editing. First, we look at what do we like about the images. And I'm circling here. I like the fact we have a lot of stars, but the problem is it's pretty dark. So I would really like to, in this image, try to pull those stars out, make them brighter, and possibly even pull up the background to make it a little bit less dark. So the way that we do that is we go up, and over here in the right hand corner there's all these tools in Photoscape X, and it can be a little overwhelming at first. Now you can play with some of the auto settings if you'd like. They have like auto color, auto levels, and so let's try auto level. And that actually, to be quite frank, doesn't look that bad. There's certain things I don't like about it. There's some things that are kind of blown out a little bit. There's some false color images. Remember if I was telling you about sensor noise in the last video? So instead of doing the audio, let's go up to this little color wheel and really dial in our settings. Now again, if this is the first time you're looking at this, all these options can look very intimidating. Brightness, deep and dark, all that kind of stuff. What do I do? Now, you have to figure this out eventually for yourself, but I'm going to show you what I find in this software program of Photoscape X is the easiest way to edit star photos. So first, pull your whites, or what it really should be called is your bright colors, up as high as you can. Now you can see the galactic cores come up a little bit, and down here in the histogram, that's the funny name for that that little graph, you can see the colors starting to what we call stretch, meaning it's starting to all that information, all that data is starting to become easily seen. Now, the next thing from there that I like to do is, for those of you who are into film, they have these simulated dodge and burn. Take a long time to explain that. I'll skip that this video, but I find that this dodge tool is a really neat way. If you pull that up, it brightens the stars without bringing up the background too much. Okay, so we'll just keep on pulling. Now burn will darken. So we don't want to use burn right now. We'll turn that down. But we'll just kind of play a little bit um, with this burn tool. And to be quite frank, that looks pretty good. Now, the next thing that we can do is when we look at the whites and the blacks, or really what should be lights and darks, is that because those sliders are meant to take care of the light and dark hues. Now we're going to pull up the darker hues just to kind of lighten up that background. Now with cell phone images, you got to be careful because you can kind of see a little bit already the false noise, and if I just yank it all the way over there, you can see there's some odd coloration happening. So you have to kind of find that middle point again of toleration of what do you like? How bright can you make it without it looking bad? And so gosh, I mean, this picture's coming together really nice, really quick. So for me, I like what's happening here in the core, but what I don't like is if we look in the shadows and there's kind of some false colorings. I see some pinks and so forth that really shouldn't be there, some purples that are more of sensor noise. But I do want to just brighten it up just a little bit more because we're going to fix some of those odd colors that are coming in. But first I want to get the balance right. I want to get all the balance right of just to get this image looking nice. And to be quite frank, it looks pretty darn nice already. I'm pretty happy with this as is. And again, this is to show you this is what you can do with cell phones. I was using my cell phone, which is not top of the line. It's a nice cell phone, um, but it's amazing what these things can do. Now, let me show you why cell phones don't make good prints. If you zoom way in to areas you wouldn't look, you see all this, what I would call crunchy, some camera people call it worms. Something strange is happening. This is part of the secret sauce of cell phone cameras. How do you get such nice images? Well, they can go in with the algorithms and on a pixel level do an over the top sharpening of certain aspects of the image. So it looks great on your cell phone, but if you were to print it out large, it doesn't look that great. And this is why. And this is the trade off between a real camera, which we'll see later on, and a cell phone camera. You can see some of the false coloring, but now if you zoom out on a global spectrum, it looks nice. And you zoom in, and you just see there's some real problems with this image. So we're going to take care of some of those problems. We're going to fix some of that with editing. First, whenever you use Photoscape, I've made this mistake many times. When you make an edit you like, hit that little apply button of these settings before you hit edit. Go down, hit the apply button, because if you don't, all that work you just did disappears. I know from personal experience. So we apply that. That puts a mask on the image of what you had just edited. And now what we're going to do is go in and do a little fixing of these wormy, crinky, over-sharpened secret sauce cell phone stuff that they do to the files to make them look good on your phones. So if you look at these tools, there's this tool called denoise. You see luminance and color noise. Luminance takes out noise across the spectrum. Color noise, it basically tries to interpret your image of what are the colors that shouldn't be there, and it tries to remove them. It works pretty good, but as you can see, there's still some false coloring there. So I always start with the color noise first, and then after that, I go to the slider and grab the luminance and really smooth it out and get all those crinky, wormy things out. Now, I intentionally over reduce the noise because you have to be careful that you don't reduce too much noise, otherwise you get this where it's too soft. You start to lose star definition and things just don't look as good as they could. And so therefore we pull it back, and again, it's a balance. How much of that noise do you want to remove? But also you need some of that noise too to maintain your detail. But you can see this looks a heck of a lot better at a pixel level. And believe it or not, it actually helps, like if you wanted to print this out, to make that image look better on a global level as well. And it does actually change the color a little bit too, because it takes out some of that noise. It takes out some of that false color that we were dealing with. Now, once again, hit apply because you don't want to lose. It's the one flaw of this program. Every program has its bug, and this is you got to make sure you hit that apply button. Now we're going to take a look. See down here, these colors, there's kind of some pinks and purples that just aren't there. Pinks and greens are the bane of every astrophotographer's journey. So what we're going to do is, first of all, I just want to raise the exposure just to show you there's also some strange color artifacting happening up here. So I want to take care of that as well. Pull that down. I actually like it a little bit more exposed, so I'll leave that exposure up just a touch. And again, once I get that exposure where I want it, we'll little fiddling. This is something that if you have obsessive compulsive disorder, which I have a gut feeling I might have a little bit of it, it's a little dangerous. Now we're going to go back in after hitting apply and put on what's called a mask. And you'll have this little tool with a bullseye. And what you do is you just start dropping dots or kind of painting lines over the areas that concern you, that you want to kind of change. And so I'm just going through and I'm trying to first just isolate areas where I see pink or purple that really shouldn't be there. Just to, before we do anything, just to kind of get, and all that red is creating again a mask. It's like a false covering on top of the image. So what it'll do when I start fiddling with the settings, it'll change things that are in those red areas, but won't impact the rest of the image. So what I like to do then is go in and desaturate. And that usually takes care of the reds, or excuse me, the pinks and the purples that shouldn't be there. Now, you don't want to desaturate too much, otherwise, you end up with a monochrome image. But as you can see, it's taking care of that. Then you kind of go in, because once you take care of the big issues, the smaller issues start coming up. So I'm just kind of going in and touching up, and just so I can kind of get some of that false coloring out so it's not distractive to your image. Now, some of you might be thinking as I'm doing this, okay, Father, this is all well and good, but what does this have to do with your faith life? Every time I work on a star image like on this, every time I reflect on this, I think of God's promise to Abraham. My covenant with you, said God to Abraham, will be so abundant, it apply, that your descendants will be as numerous as the stars. They'll be as numerous as the stars of the sky, as numerous as the sands on the beach. And so, therefore, to me, when I see things like the galactic core, or Hubble images, or now James Webb images of deep space, his even though it sounds a little cheesy and overly romantic, it reminds me of God's promise. Now I'm going in and I'm going to take care of some of that discoloration that I saw up here. I'm putting on a new mask because it's the coloration is a little different. So I just want to. That's one thing. If you're editing out a color, do it one color at a time. Desaturate, same process. Because sometimes the desaturation might need to go into different levels of desaturation. But to me, I oftentimes think of, you know, one of the things with astrophotography, if you want to get into this, you have to ask, what is your goal? Why do you want to do this? Why do you want to get into astrophotography? And for me, it's to be an iconographer, to make an image of God's creation that can draw me into prayer. Always hit the reply button. And so for me, even with a cell phone, look at this. I mean, it's amazing what we can do with a cell phone. Now, save as. Again, this is one of those things that you gotta always save. So pick a destination, name the file, save as, and away we go. And so therefore, how beautiful it is. Now, if I want to get into like more serious astronomy, um, if I had time to really do like wild stuff, I would need to do more than photoscape, but I think for most people, this is enough. Now, this is an image that I took with my camera. And again, you might think, gosh, Father, this isn't that great. Okay, so let's show you, I'm going to show you the difference. Let me hit the auto levels here. And you can see already the difference between a cell phone camera and an actual camera. There is so much more data in these files with a real camera. Just with hitting the auto, you can just tell it's you got a lot more to work with. Now we're going to zoom way in. I was a little bit out of focus, so therefore that was my bad. But for the sake of this video, it's close enough to in focus. But I just missed focus by a touch, which is why the stars look a little fuzzy. But you can see you don't see that crunchiness that you saw in the cell phone image. You don't see that over hardening and over pixelation of the cell phone images, which just gives you a much cleaner image to work with for your editing. So I'm going to go in now, and more or less I'm just going to start to do. Now we can't do, I was thinking at first, oh, I'll do the exact same edits I did on the other picture. Obviously I can't really, because if I add whites, look what happens. It just starts to blow out the image. Again, there is just so much more data to work with these images. We can play with the dodge and burn more. Yeah, I don't know if I like that. We'll come back. Yeah, we'll get rid of the burn. But again, it's can you take great pictures with your cell phone? Absolutely. And just out of camera, they look pretty close. They look like they're comparable. But if you really want to get into editing, really want to get into how can I really emphasize the stars of the night sky, a real camera is the way to go. Now, like I said, I have heard people say that with the new iPhone 13 Pro and the new Google Pixels, the astronomy apps they have are spectacular. And so, therefore, if you have that, prove me wrong. Feel free to put together a video. Um, but for me, you can do beautiful work with your cell phone. But you also can do beautiful work with a camera too. And it really comes down to what is your goal. For me, I kind of try to approach this as being an iconographer of the night sky. So for me, I am happy as a clam with what I am able to do. Now, I was going to show you this week the timer mounts I promised you last week. We'll save that for next week's video. This video got a little bit longer than I thought it was going to be. But I'll show you some of these final images that I got from both the cell phone and my camera. And after that, we will then wrap up. And the next video is we'll take a look at tracking. What's a wedge? What's the difference between an alt-azimuth mount and all that kind of good stuff, and an equatorial mount? And we'll get into the level 2 that I promised last time. So with that, as we take a look at this image, I think we're getting close to done. It's almost like being Bob Ross at the computer. And that's for those of you who are painting fans. But you just have to kind of play around with this and until you really find the image that you're most at peace with. So with that, I am going to fiddle with this a little bit more. Like I said, if you got OCD, this is pretty dangerous stuff to get into because you can really, really go bonkers on your editing. But anyway, thank you for joining me. I'm going to finish up these edits, show you the finished product at the end of the video, and I'll see you next time. And thanks for joining the Vatican Observatory Fanboy. Visit Sacred Space Astronomy. May God bless your day, and may God bless your week. See y'all later. Bye.